Viditatmanam. So Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, to those austere souls, yatis, who are delivered from desire and anger, and who have subdued their minds and have knowledge of the self, near to them lies the beatitude of God. So when someone has knowledge of the soul, or knowledge of the Supreme Being, then they realize that the Supreme Being is not anywhere else, rather the Supreme Being is inside them. If we go even further than this, then the famous sentences of the Vedas, such as Brahmavanam aham brahmasmi, aham eva brahma evidi atmana, meaning I am Brahman, they both mean I am Brahman, I am God, describe the state that is reached. Slowly and slowly, the Supreme Being, Shri Krishna, has been describing greater and greater states, levels where the yogi can get to. The Supreme Being is showing us a very high level here, which is Vidi Atmanam Yatinam. Near to these people in all four directions lies the beatitude of God. They attain the Supreme Being because there's nothing left for them apart from the Supreme Being. They saw the Supreme Being on the outside. He was making efforts towards Sarva Bhutaram, meaning seeing the form, but now he doesn't only see the form, now he can see the Supreme Being. That is why his attitude of doing service changes completely. Now he doesn't think that he's doing service to a creature or a human being, he now thinks that he's doing service to the Supreme Being. Akhil Brahman Ma Ek Tu Shri Hari, as Narsi Mehta said, he sees God in each and every place. Not only that the self-development that he did in this path make him realize that the Supreme Being is inside him. Antar Jyoti, Antar Sukha, Antar Ramaha, Antar Jyoti, meaning he finds his happiness within, his joy within, his only light within, as Shri Krishna described earlier. He sees the Supreme Being outside as well as inside. He sees the light outside as well as inside. Now wherever he looks, he can't see anything apart from God, and that's why in all four directions near him lies Brahma Nirvana. Now he doesn't have any type of complaint. He has no complaint on the inside and no complaint on the outside. Each and every beautiful quality of the Supreme Being, such meaning existence, chit meaning wisdom, and anand meaning bliss, Satchit Anand. Such existence, chit, wisdom, and anand bliss can be seen by him everywhere. He sees the beauty of the Supreme Being everywhere. He can see the beauty on the inside and the outside. He doesn't see ugliness anywhere, nor does he feel turbulence anywhere. Siya Rama me sabha jagajani karahu param chori jugutami. The yogi reaches this state. I just want to do a brief revision on the 24th, 25th and 26th verses to show the 10 qualities of a person who attains Brahma Nirvana, the beatitude of God. The Supreme Being showed 10 qualities in the 24th, 25th and 26th verses. Let's go to verse 24. First one was Antasukha. Antasukha means one who finds his happiness within. The second word of the 24th verse. He doesn't run outside anywhere for happiness, and therefore the slavery to people, objects and circumstances on the outside ends. He becomes free from these. Because while happiness is on the outside, then we have to become slaves. If an object gives us happiness, then that object will always have to be there. If I get peace and fun from eating ice cream, then whenever I go there must be ice cream, and if there's a day when I don't get ice cream, then my happiness goes away. Therefore my happiness is outside and is based on the ice cream, and I have become a slave to the ice cream. Antasukha means that slavery to outside people, objects and circumstances goes away, and one becomes free from these. He finds his happiness within. Next one, Antaramaha, which is the last word on the first line of verse 24, one who finds his only joy within. This means that one who rests within himself, but not in the way of putting your feet up and lying down. Rest means peace. He only finds this within. A person looks for peace on the outside, but it's actually within. He doesn't need to go anywhere outside to give him peace. If a human being gets peace on the outside, then he would have to go to someone to outside and tell him that there's agony in his mind and he's having a lot of difficulties, and that he would ask that person to solve it. But when he went searching for peace on the outside, yet peace is only within. His state is that he finds his joy within. Next one, Antar Jyotihi, which is the second word on the second line, one who finds his only light within. This means someone whose light within has lighted up. Two other words are used for this. One is Viditatma, a yogi who becomes divine, and the second is a rishi, a holy man who gives importance to wisdom. This is someone who has his light within, has attained wisdom of the soul, and who solves all their problems from within. All the doubts and dualities of the mind are cut asunder. How can one become Antajyotihi? The scriptures use a very nice word, one who is Atindriya Darshi, one who is beyond his senses and has a willingness to find his true meaning of the self. One who walks on this path becomes antarjoti, one who finds his only light within. While a person falls under the sway of the objects of the senses, then he doesn't become antarjoti, but this happens to a yogi. The next one is Brahma Bhutahan, which is the first word on the last line of verse 24. One who is, it says literally ever expanding, and the meaning of the word Brahman itself is ever expanding. In the same way, such a person is ever expanding in the direction of a soul. He's not shrinking, he's not small, he continuously develops. Next one, Shin Kalmasha, one whose sins are destroyed. This is the second line of verse 25, the last word, one whose sins are destroyed. It's very natural that when one reaches a state, then what one calls sin in ordinary language is not there, no longer there. Not only that, whatever this great soul does is punya, the opposite of sin. In the second chapter, Shri Krishna has said to Arjun that when a person becomes beyond dualities and reaches a state of non-duality, then they don't incur any sin. This is because the reason for sin is non-duality, is duality, such as pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. Only when these come does a person commit sins. When does a person commit sin? So that he can increase his pleasures or decrease his pains. That's why he incurs sin. He increases his gain and decreases his losses. But one who doesn't see any difference between gain and loss and is beyond duality, then he doesn't commit any sins. Chapter 2, verse 38 was a class sung by Sonal, and it said, Sukhe duke samakutva laba labo jaya jayo tato yudaya yujasva nevam papam vyapsasi. Treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat, get ready for battle, thus you shall not incur sin. Look at that last line. Only scripture in the world where it says, thus you shall not incur sin. Shri Krishna said that in verse 38 in chapter 2 of the Gita. Shri Krishna gives us so much courage and takes us to a new level. If one does this, then they don't incur sin. The next one is Chinna Dveda, which is the first word on the third line of verse 25. One whose doubts, dualities are cut asunder. Doubts arise as a result of dualities, and both these doubts and dualities are destroyed. The word chin is used, which means to cut. And doubts, we gave the example last time, doubts are like balloons. They inflate so much, they look so big, yet there's nothing inside them. How do you cut a balloon? You've got to get a pin and pop it. You've got to cut it. That's why the word jinn is used. You cut doubts asunder. Next one, number 7, is yatatatma, yatacheta, or yati, which is in this verse 26. One whose mind is disciplined. All of these mean the same thing, yatatma, yatacheta, or yati, one who has one control or one who has one over himself. We spoke in the previous class about the meanings of the word Mahavir, Hanuman, Hanu and Man. Hanu means to destroy, and Man means the ego. One who's destroyed the ego is Hanuman. Mahavir is one who is won over himself. A Veer is one who wins over other people. Mahavir is one who won over himself. That's why Hanuman is called Mahavir in the Ramcharitmanas. Sri Ram is only called Veer. Lakshman is only called Veer. Bharat is only called Veer. Hanuman is called Mahavir. He's won over himself. They are Yatatma. He's won over himself. One who wins over others is called Veer, and one who wins over himself is called Mahavir. He's reached this level. Next, Sarva Bhuttaretaha, one who rejoices in doing good to all creatures. Okay, now that he doesn't have dualities and has become beyond dualities, he doesn't have any greed for himself because he considers everyone the same. Why then does he act? His reason for action is only one. God, I want to make this world of yours beautiful. I earlier gave the example of guests in the previous class. The Supreme Being has created the world, and we have come as guests in the world created by the Supreme Being. Imagine that someone comes to our house as guests for 7 days because they have some business to do in our area and has a return ticket booked. The work is finished in 5 days and therefore has some spare days, 2 spare days before the return date on the ticket. One option is to go back 2 days early, but it often happens that we tell the guests to stay for 2 days, especially in Indian houses, because they've come from far and did not come so often, so much time. We ask them to stay for those 2 days. It can also happen that the guest cannot get a return ticket because he can't get a booking and therefore has to stay over. What can he do in those 2 spare days that he has? The guest says that the work that he's come for has been finished, and now he asks if there's any work of yours that he can help with. If we're cleaning the house, then he helps us clean the house. If we're painting the walls, then he gives us a hand. If we're decorating the kitchen, then he helps us decorate. If we have to lay out the library, then he helps us lay out the library. This is because the work that he has come for has been done, and you have treated him so nice, looked after him, and you both have good relations, so he tries to make your house more beautiful. In the same way, one who regards himself as a guest in this world, created by the Supreme Being, and thinks like this, then he says that God, the work that he's come for him has now been finished, so he's Shina Kalma Shah. He has become beyond dualities, and therefore asks God what he should do. God himself doesn't say anything, but he gives this person inspiration, so he says, God, I will make this world made by you more beautiful. That is why he rejoices in doing good to all creatures, and begins making efforts in that direction. Just look, whichever great personality or great saint attained something, began selling this to other people. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya Ji attained the supreme truth, and therefore had no further advanced stage to get to. He thought that what he had attained had not been attained by other human beings, and therefore he also had the compassion to show others the way. He became absorbed in doing good to all creatures. He does not want anything for himself. I quote the Shankar Bhasha all the time, but has Srimad Adi Shankaracharya asked for a royalty? Did he say, every time I mention his name, that I should pay a royalty somewhere? No. These great souls carry out their activities for the good and well-being for all of us. It's the cause of their lives. They've attained whatever they had to attain. I often see that when a person has earned some money and is slightly happy, then such often people come to Guruji and ask him whether there's a good cause or good activities they can donate their money to say that they wish to use their money for good purposes. Why? I often think that when someone earns £50, the wish comes in his mind that he should use that money for good purposes, then when will someone who has attained the Supreme Being not think that he would do good to all creatures and give to other creatures? This is a natural instinct. One cannot go without it. The scriptures compare this to the feeling of a mother. If a mother cannot feel look after children, then the mother herself cannot live. A mother feels the children's pain, and therefore these saints and great souls are the same as these mothers. They are like mothers. God has given you a good birth, such a nice life, such material pleasures, and yet you are still staying away from God and not going towards the Supreme Being. Saints come to us with great compassion. We saw the meaning of the word rishi earlier, but it also has another meaning as well. A rishi goes running. Even if you don't give the rishi an invitation, the rishi will come and stand there, and he comes with compassion. A pandit is different and a rishi is different. A pandit is that who's not a samadarshana pandit, who sees with equal eye, that we talk about in common language. When we go to him, he lays down his conditions if we wish to hold a discourse with him. He tells us how much we have to do, how many people will come, how many days in advance we have to do preparation for, and what he needs before the discourse. He tells us his conditions and how much he needs. Then he says they will come for an hour to give everyone knowledge. You have to respect him because he has a lot of knowledge, and you have to pay your obeisances to him. But a rishi does not do all of this. A rishi comes running. He comes even when we don't call him. This is a rishi because a rishi is like a mother. Many people have not listened to the rishi, and yet he is still gone, and with love. This is such a beautiful concept, and I think in today's society, sarva bhuta reta activities are very necessary. Sometimes it happens that if 1 out of 10 people do this, then the rest come along by themselves. In today's world, if you see the cause of sarva bhuta, meaning rejoicing in doing good to all creatures, service of human beings and service to all creatures, then you will by yourself see your own cause. Okay, next line is kama krodha yuktaha, meaning one who is delivered from desire and anger. It's in this verse, and it's in the first line. We've talked about becoming free from anger and desire in detail in the last class. Number 10 is yatta cheta hasam and vartate vidi natmanam. One is in the second and fourth lines of this verse. One who has subdued his mind and has wisdom of the self. If people have these 10 qualities, then Brahma Nirvanam Adhigachati Va Labdhaya. Near to them lies the beatitude of God. This verse even goes to say that Abhitata Vardhaya, meaning the beatitude of God is nearby them in all 4 directions. He attains the peace of Brahman and it remains steady in him. These are the 10 qualities. The 27th and 28th verses of this chapter Shri Krishna describes a person who is sada mukta, meaning ever freed, and a yogi. Who can become sada mukta? The next two verses will describe this.